Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so balance update for Maestro, Onslaught and the Deathless Guillotine is out. And well, let's take a look at them, because this one got quite a few people obviously nervous, because Onslaught has had a massive impact to the game, and there were quite a few people who thought he might get changed. So let's start with Maestro. Alongside the release of Necropolis, Maestro joined the roster of playable champions, aiming at being the new defensive threat in Cosmic class. Maestro's impact was immediately felt. He quickly became one of our most used defenders in Battlegrounds and mainstay boss, mini-boss, and Alliance War. For a while, Maestro was constantly the best performing defender in the entire game, but players have started finding a lot of success against him with Stagger, Fate Seal, or champions that key off their special attacks handle him quite well, but he blocks out a lot of traditional meta attackers. As an attacker, Maestro is very successful against tech champions with his double class advantage. Players have also occasionally been using his immunities to clear Path 9 Alliance War. Overall, we're happy to see Maestro break out trophy case and thrive as a meta defender with a simply a fun attacker loop. Going forward, Maestro will be staying as is. No change to Maestro. I would have liked a little bit more offensive oomph, but I kind of get it. I think he's perfectly fine as a champion. I think he's broken. He's, reasonably tough to beat. And, occasionally can be brought in offensively. Onslaught. Now, this is the spicy one. Shortly following Maestro, Onslaught also had a defensive responsibility for his mutant class. Specifically, we wanted Onslaught to establish new avenues of mutant threats, like with his high uptime Neuroshocks and the introduction of Daunted on parry trigger. Players have gained more experience against his special attacks, and as the counter strategies have been refined over time, we're seeing Onslaught's defensive performance stabilized at a healthy level, considering the intent for him to be a standout defender with new abilities. With so many defensive abilities in play, we look forward to releasing counters in the future that allow you to attack Onslaught through fun gameplay loops. Now, this I agree with in this first part of it, anyways, where Onslaught, he is one of those champions where plenty of meta attackers deal with him. You just effectively learn to avoid his special one for most part. Don't try to push him to level 2s, ideally. And you can nuke him. He's not super tanky. I think he's, defensively in that way, he's manageable. Again, I don't like the new clear-cut strategy releasing, it's not new, Kabam has always done it, but it seems like they have amped it to 11, where they release somebody that seems borderline unfair, especially initially, until people learn how to fight them, and then start generating counters to those champions. Kabam has always done it, but the difference was you could deal with the defenders more manageably without a specific matchup, without a specific counter. Like even now against Bullseye, for instance, if you're facing like an equally ranked up Bullseye as your attacker, for most part, even if you have solid, you're just gonna, you have to sit out, wait those awaits and stuff like that. The feel that you get from fighting these defensive champions is significantly worse than it felt to fight like Iron Man Infinity War at his peak, or Korg at his peak, and so on. I guess that is what I'm trying to get to. So, whilst with Onslaught particularly, I think that, we're learning to deal with him. The real problem, the real culprit here might have been just a huge saturation of defenders, because we had so many tough defenders coming in the game month after month that we just didn't have time to get used to these champions. And that might be affecting mine and, our perspective. But, to a degree, I definitely now agree that now that more time has passed, Onslaught doesn't seem as scary as he once was. Mostly always will take note when opponent drafts an Onslaught, knowing that, could be an issue on defense. But it's nowhere near as demoralizing as it was initially. And I think the saturation of defenders was the biggest thing that kind of damaged the morale there. Offensively, much of Onslaught's defensive threat translates to utility and fight control. Overall, we see his utility as the focus of his attacking use, with players using that control to chase his degeneration damage. We're especially happy to see the control granted by his utility is enabling his offensive loop rather than making his offensive loop too overbearing and consistent. High damage champions like Storm and Suncut are still outputting more damage across the game, while Onslaught's finding new attacker usage like against debuff immune defenders and Lions War. And yeah, that is true. Onslaught does have some unique offensive utilities, which I do like. For all these reasons, Onslaught has landed healthily and will receive no change. Now we have Guillotine the Deathless. The contest's first playable champion from our Deathless collection was a light callback to Guillotine's original kit. Think players use her new access to degeneration debuffs to great effect with healthy performance as far as the featured Saga attacker in both our PvP game modes and Battlegrounds and Alliance Wars. Since the target was an easy to play dot-based attacker, we're happy with how she's landed and won't be making any change to her kit. Keep an eye out for incoming synergies from her Deathless counterparts. Now here I kind of disagree with, because she's a tactic attacker. And I feel as if though, because of the nature of tactic that we have, because of X Magic and Magic Thief, and us having extremely limited champion pool, I just don't think we're going to see her much at all off as soon as this tactic goes away. And this is going to be a problem, I think, going forward as well. When Kabam is looking at this data, they don't necessarily have the hindsight of everything else that's happening in the game. But they don't seem to have. I guess like a great example here would be Morbius. Morbius came out and he was super hyped. And as soon as Morbius arrived in the game, my prediction effectively came through to 100%, where Morbius is going to get a lot of praise from a lot of people because he was the tactic attacker. Offensive tactic was OP, and he was popular for like a month until the meta's changed. And now we barely ever see Morbius in like Battlegrounds and much of competitive play. Obviously, there are people who still rank up and enjoy Morbius, but he's definitely fallen by the wayside given how strong Science Class is. And the same thing is going to happen to Guillotine. Like, the only reason Guillotine is getting some sort of mainstream usage right now, and not even as major as Morbius did, but any at all, for the most part, is because she's a tactic attacker. And she can take some of the matchups that we do not have many counters for. Like the fact that she can do the thing quite well, for instance. There are hardly any good tactic counters to the thing currently, which automatically kind of elevates her. Now, realistically thinking, as soon as these tactics go away, would you think of her as top 5 or top 10 or 15 best option to deal with the thing? Absolutely not. So, whilst I'm not going to say that, the Deathless Guillotine is like an awful champion, I do have to kind of insist that Bam is making an error here. Now, I think she's a perfect champion to be balanced up. Give her a little bit more oomph if you want people actually using her. Because in my opinion, it is all but guaranteed that, hardly anybody will play Guillotine in any meaningful capacity unless Kabam, specifically kind of orchestrates that. Unless Guillotine's one of the few champions that do a Winter of Woe fight or something like that. Or in next meta, she just fits in perfectly. If next Alliance War meta or next Battlegrounds meta is tied to Degen, for instance, okay, fine. Probably we'll see Deathless Guillotine. But other than that, no. Not really. As soon as this tactic is going to go away, as soon as X Magic and Magic Thief goes away, so does the Guillotine. And I am absolutely certain of that. Like, a year from now, I don't think anybody is going to be seriously looking at this champion as a potential rank. That's what I think anyways. Let me know what you guys think of Kabam. So basically, neither Maestro nor Onslaught nor Guillotine are getting any changes at all whatsoever. So, easy month for Kabam by the looks of it. Catch you guys soon. Bye bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So, we have already